I do record the sessions, and then we'll post them on Facebook in our little playlist. And over the summer, they become quite popular. And I do need to mention, and Lori gave me her permission. Lori Erstad, who has joined us a number of times, wrote to me last week, and she wanted to thank me and really all of us for continuing to meet and then to post the videos, because she said she was going to a planning meeting and she hasn't been able to join us on Tuesdays at noon. But because our videos have been posted, she reviewed several of the more recent discussions, and she said she went to her planning meeting with a boatload of ideas. So never underestimate the power of a wonderful conversation. So welcome everyone. Greta, welcome back. It's great to see you.
Hello, it's good to see you. Can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Okay, oh good. Yeah, we've been hitting state parks with the camper, so I apologize. I'm not available much in July, so it's good to be back. I did the same thing. I went out and I watched last week's discussion, so thank you. And then even looked at all of the notes from the chat on the side, very helpful. So thank you for doing that.
Wonderful. Yeah, so Sarah too, if you could put your email in, I'll make sure that you are in the little listserv for this. There is a, I'll dig it up while we're talking, but I have a playlist on YouTube. And so all of our recordings from our conversations, I just convert into YouTube videos and then post them there. And so anyone can see them. Okay, great. So here we are, August 11th. What would you like to talk about? Would you like to ask to the group? I've got a couple things, sort of announcement kind of thingies that I'll make sure I bring in later on, but really I wanted to start opening this up to you all and what you would like to talk about. How's planning going for the fall? Good? Any challenges with planning? Do you know what you're doing? How many of you, your school districts have kind of settled on what you're doing now? Or how many of you are still kind of up in the air? Ellen, you're shaking your head. Let's do stupid Zoom tricks. So under reactions, can you find that little button? Yeah, all right. So first, thumbs up if your district planning is underway and you feel pretty good about kind of what's going on. So thumbs up, district planning underway. Oh yeah, Shelley, I know you guys even have your book out. Yeah. Okay.
Those are two questions. One is that they're planning, and two, you feel good about it.
Yeah.
So sorry. It's kind of a there.
One is the practical, one is the emotional. I get
That's
it.
Right.
Okay, and now thumbs up if your district is still kind of in the air. Do you want to separate into small groups based on anything and sort of talk about it that way, or what would you like to do today?
I think separating into groups of where we are based on those two questions just might be frustrating. And we just might continue with the frustration that we might be feeling. That's my concern, but.
Okay.
I agree.
The people who, I have a question. So the people who gave thumbs up to the second question, are your districts not giving you guidance? Are you, what's kind of causing because I'm in the same boat as you, but what's causing the delay in planning? Is it, anybody have anything to say about that?
So our district just announced yesterday, today was the deadline for them announcing. And so we're distance plus. And so just all the trickle down of what that's going to mean for each program and what we can make that mean for us. So, I mean, we really just are today putting our head around what, you know, if we're doing distance, what does that mean?
And I'm from Prior Lake Savage, and our first planning meeting to really look at things more in depth is this Thursday. So coming.
In Northfield, the district is going to decide K-12 if they're going to do, because right now looking at our numbers, it would be elementary full in person, and our coordinator is saying we would start in person. I don't know if she means full. Kids in person, I'm hoping not, because our rooms we can't properly social distance. So we still have to talk about numbers. We still have to talk about space. We still need to talk, I mean, we have an idea, but the details are nowhere near being hashed out.
I'm from Cambridge Isani Schools, and we're similar to where you're at, Ellen. We are actually, Cambridge is doing all in person at all levels. And so we know that, but then what does it mean trickle down? And so my coordinator has been in meetings yesterday and all day today. I'm meeting her tomorrow for screening, but I don't see a meeting on the horizon for ECFE exactly. So hopefully we'll have that soon, maybe Thursday or Friday. Here's some specifics.
Well, and I think it's important too that looking at the model that the state has given us, even though we could have full classes of ECFE kids, we also have adults. So we almost need to look at that as more of the secondary option. And that's why our classes do need to be smaller, because we have to sell this to parents. I mean, whatever early childhood program we do, I think will be great. But if the parents aren't on board with how we are going to run things, they're just not going to sign up for it in person. Mm-hmm.
Can you guys hear me okay? I'll report that in Edina, our coordinator presented to the school board last week a plan that included programming for 3s and 4s with no parents in the building and all parent ed online. So no programming for 0 to 3s.
How did they come to that decision, Sarah? Was that the ECFE coordinator? Was it community ed? Because I'm just curious how they came to that decision. Is it based on your numbers?
I wish I knew the answer to that, Ellen. I think what's been shared with me so far is that it was our coordinator working with our community ed director. However, I know our community ed director has been really focused on out of school care and just coordinating that program for the summer and the fall, because that's on them too. So it's not clear to me yet how negotiable that proposal is based on staff and parent feedback.
I think so. That's where we're at too in Inver Grove Heights. And I think what I'm running into and what I'm hearing is that even though we're a smaller district, our coordinator, and so it should be a smaller job, well, whatever. She's focused on 3s and 4s. She's focused on preschool at this point because that's where they've told her to focus. And so we're just kind of on the back burner. And I know that we also have some issues with space. I think we have two early childhood rooms and 2 parent ed rooms, but they're tiny. And so to even think of how to do a hybrid there is really hard, because I don't think we could, I mean, I think we could have, I don't know, maybe 2 families. So I think that's a challenge too right now. But we are trying to, we're doing a young 3s class, preschool class 2 days a week. And I'm going to try and do a parent ed component with that, where we meet outside, like they'll drop them off and they'll bring a chair and we'll meet in the parking lot or on the side of the building or something like that, or give them 15 minutes to get home and get on Zoom. So we're trying to come up with new ideas, but I think it's a big challenge for sure.
Karen, I'll return to you. You had mentioned about the emotional reaction to the planning was different than the practical reaction to the planning. Is there more to that that you would like to share?
For me, it's hard just because I have health conditions that get in the way. So we had to vote yes or no, and I voted no, that I didn't want to come back to the hybrid. And I'm working on negotiations of what that could look like. My guess is that it would probably end up being distance learning in the long run anyway. The other piece of that is I've been watching the dialogue of several staff members who are really struggling with how they balance having their kids at school or home and their partner working and them working. And it's the stress for those families is really tough. So I'm feeling that too. I do believe that our district and our director and all of that have done phenomenal work and creating a safe environment. I mean, the precautions are like unbelievable, but I'm still not convinced that that's what's going to stop people from getting infected. And then once one person is, anyway, it's that snowball effect, right? So that's where some of the feeling comes from. Hear you.
Which school district are you in?
196 Rosemont Egan Apple Valley.
Great, thank you. I did not ask us to go around and individually identify ourselves, but I can hear as you all are talking, which is wonderful, you're mentioning which school district you're in, and I think that is really, really useful, especially for those who might be new, because that also helps to give people a sense of district size and resources and just geographic location in the state. So thank you for that. Others of you, how are you? I saw a few heads nodding as Karen was talking about the conflict of sort of returning face to face, but more not only what that means for us as individuals, but also what that might mean for our families. Is that anything else you'd like to share about?
Well, I'm wondering how many of our families with elementary kids are going to enroll in the online only option that Northfield is providing. That means they're not going to be able to come at all. Well, they could come, I guess, depending on, but then SIB care becomes an issue. We already know that we can't do back-to-back SIB care. Like we used to offer SIB care for the first class and the second class, and now we have to cut it for one of the classes. Are we going to need more SIB care because some parents are keeping their elementary kids home? Are we going to need less? My thought though is if parents are keeping their children home completely and enrolling in the 100% online option, they're probably the same families who are not going to come to ECFE for the same concerns. So, but still, I mean, we just don't know.
I was just on the phone with the staff member this morning talking about we're in a hybrid in Duluth, starting that way. And just talking about, so students, elementary students will go Monday, Tuesday, then there's a break day, and then another group goes Thursday, Friday. So we were just talking about how we already have registration complete. Well, it's open right now from last spring. And so just thinking about families and their siblings, that their school-age children who we're not going to have more students come into the building and be in our sibling care spaces. That's just not responsible, I don't think. So that's a very definite complication that parents will be forced to figure out, staff will be forced to figure out. But back to Karen's feeling of, it's anxiety. And that same staff member this morning, we were just talking about how it's just like this constant heightened anxiety that we all have and parents all have, and kind of, I think we've talked about previously about this like elephant in the room when we all come together to just talk about how that makes us feel and react to each other. And this staff member has seen her adult children and her fiance this summer, basically nobody else. And she's, you know, she's healthy, and that's just her lifestyle, that she's pretty secluded, and she's been very intentional about it. And now she wants to come back to work, and she wants to serve families. It's her life. That's what she's been doing. But yet it's hard. It's hard to envision that for her. And so it's troubling. It's troubling for all of us. And I looked at our registration. It's way down. We cut 5 classes, which I assured our teachers that we will still, there's plenty to do. We have some classes that are really full. And so we might do some splitting. We've got a lot of phone calls to make. We've got a lot of relationships to keep up from last year of people that aren't registered. So we have a lot of really good ideas of how to serve more people in different ways. But it's very complex of moving staff, and they had a plan that they were going to be serving all these different kind of outreach ideas. Well, those agencies don't want us there right now because they don't want, so it's just so very complex. So then I got on the phone with her, and she said, I bet you're stressed, because she knew why I was calling. I was calling to kind of move her around a little bit. And so she just called it out right away. And so we had a really good discussion about that. And I think we just have to be open to be vulnerable and just talk about how we feel, because we need to model that for the parents in our groups.
I have a lot of feelings, but I'm at this time I'm going to share something that might be logistically interesting, which is that although Edina is like yours, like Duluth Gen AA, kids elementary and higher, some kids are going Monday, Tuesday, no one's going to be there Wednesday, and then some kids will be there Thursday, Friday. Our coordinator has had a conversation, she said, with our superintendent that unbinds her from that schedule so that she can run a preschool schedule. And as I've already shared, she's focusing on preschool, so 3s and 4s. She's going to run a preschool schedule like she would in a different year, but just in like with pods of 10 kids rather than whatever the other class size would have been. So the Early Learning Center in Edina is not bound to that hybrid schedule. And as I understand it, that was a conversation in exchange for some other really rigid safety parameters that our coordinator promised to uphold while doing her own preschool schedule. That's her plan.
One of the things, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say that I think so it looks like all of our parent ed, well, none of our parent ed will be attached to any of the early childhood learning that's going on. None of those classroom communities will have a parent ed educator assigned to them in like sort of an ECFE model. And so all our parent ed I think we're going to have to really think carefully about when parents might be most available to even join us online for classes. And I'd be curious to hear what you guys are thinking about that. I mean, I know we've talked about this before. I don't really want to teach at 8 p.m. every night, even though my hunch is that might be a great time for parents. And also I think we as a team of 5 parent educators talked about, like, we're not going to be able to really get any of this hammered out until after school starts and families kind of settle into what they feel like they can commit, like how full is their plate just with doing their family in the time of COVID with older kids. For anybody with a kindergarten or older, people with family with kids 0 to 5, and only 0 to 5, it's a separate set of challenges. But
so Sarah, what was your question to the group?
I guess my question to the group was, I don't know if it was a question. I just wanted people to know that at least in Edina, the schedule, the hybrid schedule is not something that our Early Learning Center is bound to.
Okay.
Sarah, has that been approved yet?
No.
I
back
guess
to have it. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Shelley.
I was just going to ask another question for, and I know we've talked about it before, but it's just a good reminder. What times, and I think this is kind of where you were going, Sarah, too. What times during the day were most utilized in the spring for your parents, do you think? Were there certain times during the day that were, you had lots of interaction or lots of parents coming to your Zooms? Or I think that intentionality about timing is really important.
Our classes were just tied to the exact same time that they were in person because we just moved our entire schedule virtually. So we did circle time first, parent time second. And the families who could make it, made it. And the families who had school agers and found it too hard didn't. We did have a problem with our 9 o'clock circle start time because 9 a.m. was the exact same time that all elementary kids were getting online. So we know that 9 o'clock is not a great start time for circle time. So that's a good point to bring up, Shelley. And I think I did ask families in May, what time would work well. And a lot of them said the afternoon would work well. Cause I agree, 8 p.m. doing a evening class every night. That doesn't sound like fun. And that brings me to a question too. I'm curious, Shelley, kind of piggybacking on yours. Are any of you offering like an a la carte option where families can sign up for the parent portion separately from the early childhood portion, or are you like a package deal? I'm just curious because I know a lot of families are just saying that their child did not want to participate virtually, but they are interested still in being connected with other parents. So I'm just curious how you guys are marketing, if you're separating it or if it's together.
So I think what we're thinking about doing in Duluth for the children is just asynchronous items on Seesaw that families can access whenever, however, but that our online virtual stuff will be parent only.
It's funny because that's always been an option. In ECFE, it's always been an option where you can come without your kid just can't come without you. And unless it's a different kind of programming or other funding coming into that programming. But I don't know that it's been marketed that way. And so maybe Christy, I'm putting you on the spot, darling, but maybe you could respond to that. I don't know. I haven't looked at the brochure. I'm sorry. So what do we do in that situation?
Well, I think engaging children was one of the things we were concerned about because parents do better joining virtually, and look what we've done here as a group. Like, I look forward to this every Tuesday, and I think we can build that for parents. But how to engage children, it's so key, because I think a lot of people sign up because they want their children to have time with the teacher, an educational opportunity, socialization. So what are some ways what are some ways we can achieve that? And we put out a catalog that now I'm just like, I mean, I don't know that we'll be able to carry out what we've put out, but we said that up front, that this is probably going to change. But we wanted to give families a feeling of there's a social place here for you. There's a social place here for your children. So we're planning on small groups. It's distance learning. If you want to come on site, we're taking up to 4 families because our space allows that. And they can participate fully virtually, or they can come on site for 1 hour. We limited it to 1 hour. We're gonna put our circle time live on Zoom so that if they want to Zoom in, they would see a teacher leading a group and giving off those signals of socialness. I don't know how else to say it. And relationship building. And you know, we don't know. They can sign up either way. They can say, I want to attend virtually, or I want to do the every other week option in person, and they can change their minds at any time. So we could get classes that all sign up for virtual, or we could get classes where we're full of the 8 families coming every other week on site. We don't know, but we're going to be flexible and take what we get. And as Karen mentioned, now we're in a phase where all our staff are getting a phone call if they said, I can't come back. And we're going to try to, you know, switch it up and match virtual to virtual and in-person to in-person. And it's tricky, but I just heard we put it up last week on Thursday, I think, and we have 60 registrations. So, I mean, I don't know how we'll carry it out, honestly. Shelly and Karen are probably like, oh crap. But we're going to offer something, and that we've given a choice. The other thing we're going to do is, in addition to like a live circle time or virtual circle time, is to send home parent-child interaction hands-on activities. We heard in a survey that parents really want hands-on things for their kids to do. They don't want to be on the screen, but they're willing to do some activities with them in their home. They just they can't think of the ideas, and they don't know how to target those teaching points. And so when we get back in the fall, we'll put together some of those activities. And, you know, we'll have the old-fashioned interaction card with what's the developmental piece we're working on here, and why do we do this? And we're even thinking of sending out some simple supplies. So I don't know. As I listen to all of you where your districts aren't, I'm scared now. Like, we put it out there and we're committed and we're going to do it, and I'm completely scared, but we're all going to just do the best we can and be flexible.
We also yesterday, for our wide open spaces classes and other groups at our building who want to take advantage of it, cleared out a big space in the back and put like stumps. Like, one of our teachers kind of created this whole nature space, and so there's like a huge outdoor classroom right behind our building that we're in the middle of building. So hopefully that can be used as well. It looks great if we can actually get there, but that's one thing that we're doing as well out there.
I wanted to add something that our early childhood teachers came up with. This is in response to the sending the packet home or hands-on activities. That I'm not seeing the person that's speaking, I'm just seeing 9 people. So I know I need to change my Zoom here, but anyways, so that what the person before said, and that is they sent a hands-on activity home, but then for parent-child time, together time or interaction time, they did something with that activity. So, I mean, granted, you have the concern, what if everyone doesn't do it, and so on, but that didn't seem to happen. That seemed quite beneficial. It was tying home and school together. The other thing is, especially for the preschoolers, the preschool teacher, she did some wonderful activities that were very interactive. So the children needed to go find something in particular in their home and bring it back and show it. I'm sorry if you've already talked about this a million times,
No, it's good.
But that gave it a little bit more than let's sing the songs and reading. Not that that's not good, that's great, but it kind of changed it up a little bit. So that's just my thoughts about that.
I'm curious, for those of you who have set up your classrooms and you know how many adults you can fit in there, how many staff will you have in there? I'm assuming you've figured out that you need your parent educator, your early childhood teacher, your EAs. Did you include 2 or 3 staff in the room at the same time?
Yes, we did. Typically, we would have an early childhood teacher and 2 assistants, sometimes 3 assistants if it's a really full, difficult kind of dynamic. But our assistant assignments are kind of up in the air right now. I do sort of envision that in some cases we'd have fewer assistants, but our district is planning to use assistants in our child, they're going to do childcare for school age kids. And we're trying to set up childcare for our family literacy program for school age. And then prepping all these packets and there's going to be other things for assistants to do. So I envision it would be a parent educator, an early childhood teacher, and 1 assistant. Today, that's what I envision.
I was just chatting with one of my EAs, and she's actually concerned that if we only have 4 kids in the class, that we won't even need an assistant. That might be a cost-cutting option, because 4 kids is not, I mean, we only run classes. We want a minimum of 4 kids to run a class. So I don't know if any of you, and like I said, I haven't gotten any news on that, but that's her concern is I'm expendable because the class is small and our early childhood teacher can handle it herself.
And we know it can happen. Oh, go ahead, Karen.
Oh, you got it.
We know that leaving 1 person with children
It's not a good
is
plan.
just not optimal. And we're so fortunate that we have support for, that's kind of our policy, is we generally would not have 1 person alone with children.
No, and I don't think that, but she is concerned because she knows like we're eking by with, a budget issues. And I think I don't think that's going to happen, but she just voiced that concern to me. And I was like, gosh, I didn't really even think about it, but maybe.
And as an early childhood teacher, I automatically think of safety, safety, safety. And if that's one of the reasons we're doing this is because of safety, and we don't have that safety in the classroom, then it just cancels each other out. And so it's a worry. I understand.
Ellen, I
would fight for it. I would fight.
One of the things that I see as a potential, Ellen, around that too, is that maybe, because we haven't decided what our classes look like, it could be non-separating, and then we don't have assistants, and then we have 2 of us in the room, and then we also, my concern becomes, how do we keep the room safe germ-wise? So like, if you have an early childhood teacher now without an assistant, how do you get that room turned over? How do you get everything sanitized in a proper amount of time and keep that a safe place in that regard as well? Not just the 1 ratio to all the children, but those are some of the things that could be on the horizon.
I wasn't even thinking about non-separating classes. But yeah, so we'll just cross our fingers that doesn't happen.
Exactly.
How much time are you guys leaving between classes? I have lots of questions today. How much time are you guys leaving between, are you doing back-to-back classes in the same room? We're trying not to. You are. Some of you are. Oh, okay. So we've got varying things on this. Ooh. How are you guys planning around sanitizing, changing rooms, cleaning the space? And what about parent ed room back-to-back? How are you cleaning that? Is that cleaning falling on you? Karen, you're shaking your head no. I told you I have a lot of questions.
Okay. Well, and I can talk all I want, but Christy's one who knows this way better than I do, and I'm putting her on the spot here. Because she was a part of that planning. I know, you're gonna get me for it, aren't you? But there are no back-to-back classes. We've got down to 1 class a day. Things that there is time in between classes to clean. Isn't there some kind of I want to say a bomb, a little cleaning bomb you put in a classroom, and then you close the door, and 15 minutes later you come back and it's all good to go, or something like that, Christy? And are they doing that? I heard something about that.
Well, it was our board met last night. So if you want to see our district's plan, it not specific to ECFE, but like our district's cleaning plan in detail, like they laid everything out in detail. You can see it on YouTube, our 196 board meeting. But there is a mister they're going to use that, and he gave the name of the cleaner and the machine that does it and everything. And I looked up it was CDC approved, and just because I was curious, and it does make me wonder though about things kids put in their mouth, because I think we're different than like a typical middle
Right.
school, although anyway, and so I have a few questions about it, but that was the first time I heard that our district was using this type of cleaning. And I guess we're included in the custodial plan, so that's good too.
I think there's one, and correct me if I'm wrong, Christy, one group on a Tuesday morning where there's a 2-year-old class where the 4 families will come in every other week. And then there's another class right afterwards via Zoom only. So, right, so you wouldn't have another group of people in there. You would just, because we have smart boards in all of our parent rooms, so we would just do a parent class in there without actually, physically being there back to back. I think that's probably the only one that there's 2 classes on that one day. Yeah.
We have a couple of late afternoon into evening classes, so kind of like after the nap time, and then an evening where one is a Zoom and one is in hybrid, I guess. So you could do back-to-backs that way, then you don't have to worry about the space.
So what about parent ed room? I know there were multiple head shakes or nods, because I have one day where I need the parent ed room back to back for 3 classes. Obviously, we're going to have to change some of that, but I don't know. We're also in a brand new building this year. So I don't know what custodial staff is going to look like for us, but are you being expected to clean between? You're not. Okay, so I should be asking, like, I shouldn't have to be.
Right.
Okay. Also, there's couches in there. Couches are hard to clean. I don't know. Again, like, we have not ironed these things out. So my head is just spinning thinking about.
Yeah,
Deep breaths
breathe.
are good. Yeah. Yeah.
I want to clarify that we would be doing our usual takedown setup and cleaning of mouth toys and things like that. But our custodial staff is doing like sinks, knobs, vacuuming, garbage, like and high touch traffic areas, things like that. So it'll be a group effort.
How about others of you? That is curious, and I haven't quite kept tracking in my head of who's doing online and who's doing face to face. But for others of you who are doing face to face parent ed, how is your cleaning schedule, or are you doing just like 1 class a day?
We're gonna do face to face here. I haven't been told I can't, so I'm going to do things until they tell me I can't, is what I'm going to do over here. In Big Lake, friends, Sarah Fritch, Big Lake. But we're kind of on the schedule of, like, there is separating classes, non-separating classes. I am really, really blessed with a very, very big parent ed room, like a really nice parent ed room. And I can't believe I still have it, by the way. I just, every year I think it's going to go to somebody else. But anyway, so I have enough room with our smaller classes that they don't even have to like touch the same chairs or tables or anything. So if I do have most of our classes, one will be the separating and then one will be the non-separating. So yeah, it's basically like one group using it one day, and then yeah, we'll have one group. And then, like you said, we have a couple classes at night, but that will be far between. So and my goal is to have most of our classes outside anyway. I'm going to have all my parents put their lawn chair in their car. We also have a great campus here, and so we have lots and lots of outdoor space that we can use. And so that's what we are going to plan on, being outside as much as possible. Fall's beautiful.
We want to have a lot of outdoor classes too, but our original plan to offer in-person and virtual at the same time I've been trying to do an outdoor and Zoom class, and I'm having so many technical issues, you guys. It's such a headache, and I'm only doing it for an hour and a half, and it's so stressful. I thought it would work. Wi-Fi doesn't reach outside. My battery runs out of juice. Sound is, well, the problem is I had 9 moms come outdoor to my baby class yesterday. And because we're sitting in the shade of the building with the newborns, I have us sitting in more like in a rectangle. And so when I'm sitting in the middle, the farthest mom is 16 feet away and parents can't hear. Now in a smaller group in a circle, it might be better, but I just don't know how to do my early childhood teacher wants to do as many classes as possible outside, but then we're going to have to rethink also being able to offer it virtual. Because it's such a struggle. It's
the school
such a
district
struggle.
needs to pay for a videographer for you.
Yes,
Right.
I love that idea. I will send in a proposal.
So I have another quick question, and I don't mean to be Debbie Downer here, but and I know because I know that just even the planning so far is, even if it's planned, it still is in flux. And I've heard a number of you talk about, we won't really know until kind of we see in September. But with some of these early openings and kind of the pressure in some other states to get kids back in the schools, we've also seen, or at least I've seen in the news, pretty rapid quarantines with, 1 or 2 kids getting sick. And so I'm more curious from a standpoint of planning, are your school districts also building in contingency plans for what happens if after a week of doing all the planning and opening and things like that, a parent comes down with COVID, or 2 little kids who come in for the 1 day a week or whatever, they come down with it. Just that contingency of then what happens?
At our school board meeting last night, that was basically a question that came in. And I think what they approved, from if I understand it correctly, is that would be up to the superintendent, that it's a part of the plan for the superintendent to shift that to whatever level of whatever model we need to use. I would assume distance learning. So even though they approved hybrid learning, they know that that's the data in the end of July, early August data, and we're not talking until, we're not seeing anybody until September. And for us, it's the 3rd week in September. So she has that ability to shift us. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's what it looks like in ours.
If you're talking from like a specific like ECFE, Susan, is that what you're kind of like wondering, if we had like a ECFE parent coming in and then they found out that they were tested positive? I mean, our thought, oh, okay.
Just what contingencies, for, because I even think about I honestly, I haven't heard anything from my university. It's more like reporting cases, or if you're sick, that kind of thing. So it's really more anybody who happens to come down with it, is that going to mean an automatic, everything goes online now for the rest of the, just.
Isn't it classroom specific? I think from what I understand, it's classroom specific. So it depends upon the classroom. It depends upon the situation. It depends upon what the contract or contact exposure has been to other people. But if it's one child in one classroom, then that classroom goes down, not necessarily the whole school.
Okay.
And in ECFE, if that means one teacher, that means that teacher for other classes, right? Then you're not teaching other classes, right?
Yep. It's such a different model.
Yeah, and if you're the only, parent ed person in your school district, that could be tricky.
It'd be quite tricky.
No, but our thoughts were, if it happened family-wise, we would just be that one, that class then would be basically like, you know, out for 10 days, you know, online and whatnots. And like you said, you know, have packets ready or whatnot. So we could do the activities and stuff for those in-person classes. So sorry, friends, we're not hanging out with you for a couple weeks and then we'll come back together. I mean, but who the heck knows?
Well, and it's one thing to be tested positive and not be able to teach or not be able to be in person and be able to do it digitally. It's another thing to be tested positive and be really sick and not able to teach at all. And so I keep thinking, where are the subs coming from? Where are we getting subs? Because we already have a sub shortage. You know, I worry about that.
Our district is trying to talk to the union and whatnot, and they're trying to have a few subs on contract. So basically, like what I think about it as is like, you know how they have like nurses that are the floater nurses? They're trying to get like basically floating teachers, but that's probably not going to come down to ECFE. I'm just saying.
Our district too hired 3 long-term subs for the year as floating teachers. And I have been very vocal about how they need to be used for ECFE and preschool as well, because we're the ones that are always forgotten, and they put me on a committee, so I made sure we weren't forgotten this summer. So I think they know that we could use them.
In my years of working in school districts, having a floating staff person only lasts for a short amount of time because that floating staff person often always gets hired, and then you've lost your floater. And this is what I've seen. But we'll see what rolls on, and I don't want to project anything that's not accurate or true.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I put this in the chat, but I guess I want to speak it out loud, and that is what happens if a staff works in different locations. So I'm not just talking about the floater situation, but I'm talking about staff that are assigned to 2 different locations. Then if at one location, that's where the breakout is, and then now they've been in the other location, and just how would that be organized or addressed?
Do you all feel, you know, I was smiling inside when Shelley was talking about making sure that, you know, ECFE was represented. How do you feel about ECFE representation or community ed's representation or early childhood, if your program is in early childhood, in sort of school district decision making in ways that affect you?
I know my microphone is crummy, so go like this. If you can't hear me, I'll type it. But I think our school board has been totally preoccupied with K-12. This is based on my observation of the school board working session last Thursday, where it was like an hour each of Q&A for K-5, 6 through 8, 9 through 12, and about a 4-minute, write any questions about early childhood. And that may be appropriate. I'm not sure there's a huge number of complexities K-12 to work through, and Edina has a really strong, you know, active parent community asking a lot of questions, putting a lot of pressure on school boards about that stuff. And so maybe it's but I have said now in a few different settings that it is now time to reckon with the problem, the challenges facing the early learning. So we have a school board rep whose job it is to make sure that she knows what's going on with the Early Learning Center. And so we have that. And so she's our resource now to like kind of wave the flag and be like, hello.
I've been invited to like every meeting all summer, so I feel really lucky for that. And they've included us as much as they can, I think, or as much as they think. So I think that is good. And then getting our feedback in there. But we are in the we are an E2 building, and so I've been working really closely with our principal here, like where we're going to put our kiddos, how our kids are going to get picked up. ECFE wise, their huge concern was parents coming into our building, and some people just didn't want our parents in the building at all, and that was a hurdle that I had to go through. So I literally am kind of not sneaking them in, but I'm going to try to make it not feel like sneaking. We have a door that they can come through, and like, anyway, I'm going to put stars on the floor so it makes it feel like I'm not literally sneaking them, but so they don't want parents in the hallway and all that jazz. But at least they're willing to work on it with me and not just say, absolutely not, there's no other adults in the building. So I feel like I have that type of support. But we're small though. You know, we're tiny, so.
Ellen, I always am. Ellen reminds us about another value of our conversations is that issues get brought up that sometimes haven't even been on our radar, and that's helpful because it can help us think ahead or think more globally or address issues or feel really happy that it's something we don't have to deal with. We are at 12:55. I would encourage you to please, the chat has been really active today, which is fabulous. So please, and I will, I'll send the chat text back out to our listserv. And before we left for today, I did want to bring up, Christy's on the call, that a plug, I guess, we put in the workshop. So as I've mentioned last week, our Perfect group here is partnering with Manafi for a workshop this fall, professional development workshop, that I'm so excited because it just builds so naturally on our conversations since the spring. It also really builds on all of the results from the survey that I did with the professionals back in the spring that my students and I have been working on this summer. And so I did mention this last week that because it fits into our infrastructure of our meetings, is that you can see the link to the workshop. The full day workshop is going to be, yes, it's going to be virtual, but we got this. We are so going to happen, and it's going to be great. But we're going to do a full day workshop on September 25th. And so the link down there, you can see it. And depending on it, we're going to do it's going to be a very engaged day. And so it's not going to be me sitting here it's totally boring and just lecturing you for 6 hours. Like, who would ever want that? So, but it's not going to be like that at all. And so we're going to have whole hours just on topics like on building relationships and maintaining relationships, and about equity and access, and about curriculum and using technologies and things like that. So it's going to be really engaging. And we're going to have small groups, and the small groups are going to do a lot of problem solving and a lot of modeling of activity and that kind of thing. It's going to be a great day. Anyway, so in addition to that, we are going to have our Perfect meetings the last week in August. We're going to have 3 actually. So you can join us for all 3, one of them, none of them, totally up to you. But just to let you know that we're going to focus our conversations on the 24th, the 26th, and the 28th on one of those 3 topics of relationships with families, relationship between families, parents and children's relationships, but the whole idea about relationships in ECFE. And one of them will be focused on equity and access. Huge issue that came out in the survey research from you all in the spring. In fact, we kept seeing it come up over and over and over. So it was like the link around everything. So we're going to talk about that for one of them. And then the final day, or one of the days too, we're going to talk about your challenges and needs. My intention with those 3 days is to really winnow down to the most essential ideas, practice ideas. What do you most need, so that we know from those 3 days of conversation what to do on the 25th. Okay, so that our day together on the 25th is as best as it possibly can be. So it's not pie in the sky, me pulling from research studies and saying, here's some thoughts, and then you going, well, that was great, but I got like one good thing out of that. We want you to leave that day feeling like you're ready for the fall, like you're ready for the school year. And so just letting you know, so that's going to also be at noon. Noon on Monday, noon on Wednesday, and noon on Friday. So there will be those. And then in addition, and Christy has added that, depending on the number of people that we have who are registered, will depend on the number of groups that we have. And so one of the things that I am asking of this group is if any of you would be willing to volunteer to be sort of small group facilitators. I've already strong-armed 5 of my students. They get to do this to facilitate the groups, and you're still part of the conversation. It's just my having an extra pair of eyes and hands in case something goes wrong. You need to let me know to come into the group, or whatever. And so there's a sign-up form there. It also is really helpful for me to have other people who can sort of be hearing things and then let me know how things are going and debrief afterwards, especially that Monday, Wednesday, Friday session, so that we can kind of brainstorm, put our heads together and go, this is what I heard, this is what people need. Okay, so that's a plug for that. And then the other quick thing, and then I'll open it up if you have questions, is about this group. And so right now, I'm not really sure what I'm going to be doing next Tuesday. I plan to be here, but in case I'm not here, what I would also like is if somebody would be willing to be a host, just in case I can't be here next Tuesday. What I've discovered with the university and Zoom is that I can assign a co-host, but that person can't start the meeting as far as I know. So it really would probably mean, as a backup, you creating a Zoom link for yourself or for the group. And that's not hard to do. And I can help you do that if you would need to. So if anybody here knows they're going to be around next Tuesday, would be willing to be the co-host or the substitute host, please let me know in case I can't be here. And then the final thing is about our continued meetings for the fall. And I raised this last week and asked about the best way to figure things out. My main question, and I can do that, I can do a survey, doodle, whatever. And I'm trying to land on a good mutual time. And again, the things will be videoed. But my question is this, do you get a sense that people know what their falls are going to be looking like? That if I sent out a survey, you would know like which day of the week, which time of the day you would be most, because I'll have plenty of options, right, to figure out what works for the most of the group. But is it too early for me to be sending out kind of a, when would you like these meetings to be held? Should I hold off for a bit? What do you
2
think?
weeks.
2 weeks?
2 weeks.
Okay. Is that how
3 weeks. 2 to 3 weeks. August 31st.
August 31st.
That week.
Okay, put in the chat.
I will.
Yeah, put in the chat when you all feel, because we know next week and then we know the last week in August. So those weeks are good. My need would be to know, starting in September, when our perfect conversations can continue. Okay? So may not be 2 weeks, Karen.
I know, that's fine. I'm just thinking people are back to school that week of August 31st. That's the back to school week. People pretty much know their schedules by then, but up until then, everything is still in flux. So that's why I'm suggesting that, but whatever works, we make it work, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I could send something out maybe that week of the 24th. I mean, alternately, we just continue at Tuesday at, oh, I can't, I'm teaching. So actually, maybe I could do it. Anyway, we'll figure it out. But thank you. That helps me. The earliest I would ask for your schedules or when you all want to meet would be last week in August. Okay. Cool. All right. Any questions about the workshop or about today's meeting or going forward or final things you want to share with the group?
Didn't Angie mention something in the chat about that not having to follow the hybrid model? And I guess I want to hear, I mean, we're out of time, I know that, but I just wanted to get a response for her, or?
Yeah, I'm right here. Hi.
Okay.
I'm from Medford School, and so we have a K through 12 building, and that's separated by doors from the elementary to the high school. And I'm right across from the like from the kindergarten classroom. I have one room for everything. It's just me and an assistant, and we have 3 classes a week. And so if I have to do hybrid learning, there's no possible way I can have all 3 of my classes. So I'm trying to figure out, I asked my superintendent and my boss and principal, and they told me to contact Mike Brown from MDE about whether, because for the mask guidelines, we fall under the daycare piece of the rules. And so I asked, do we fall under those guidelines, as in, do we have to follow hybrid learning for for early childhood preschool? And none of them had an answer. And so Mike was supposed to have a meeting this last Friday and get back to me, and he hasn't. So I'm just curious what other districts are doing with their preschool. Are they, following that hybrid model, or are they kind of still going on the daycare piece of they can still meet?
Ours are following the hybrid model. And so they're doing the Monday, Thursday is one cohort, Tuesday, Friday is another cohort, Wednesday is off.
Okay.
Ours are following the hybrid model too. Monday, Tuesday is one cohort, Thursday, Friday is another cohort.
Because see, I only do half-day classes, Monday, Wednesday, Friday mornings, and then Monday through Thursday afternoon, and then Tuesday, Thursday mornings. But if we have to have a day off in between there, then that makes it so I can't see all 3 of my classes.
Right. I think, Angie, for some districts, like I know Wayzata, like I think all preschool classes are meeting as scheduled with smaller classes. So for them, hybrid doesn't mean that each program has to work hybrid, but that some age groups can be completely in person at smaller sizes and following other guidelines. But that, so like I think there's wiggle room, but I don't know whether districts have just decided that on themselves. I mean, to the extent that districts do have a lot of leeway in just taking the government's guidelines. And so I think it's a possibility that you could do it, but anyway.
Angie, in Cambridge ICNE schools, we are K-12, early childhood through 12 in person, but how they're planning it in case it was to change, they're just reducing the ratios. And then they qualify now, and they won't have to change anything if we have to go to hybrid. And because it's twice a week and it's only in the morning, they don't have to change anything when hybrid hits, if it hits.
So when you say reduce numbers, how many are you allowing in a preschool class? Because we normally have up to 18 in my 4s and 15 in my 3s.
They're going 50% of the maximum, or of the number, the ratio that we're given in person.
Okay, well now I've heard some districts like elementary, they're going, so the max amount, are they going by what the state allows per teacher? Or are they going by what the fire marshal says for a class?
They measured the classroom space. So different spaces will have a different ratio.
Okay, that makes sense. Well, thank you, ladies. That kind of helps me out a little bit.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Angie, that's what we were told too, was that you go on fire marshal. So it should be, your room should be measured, and according to what your measurements are, you can do and we were told hybrid means, that just means they're not meeting every day. And since our preschool kiddos are half day just like yours, and they don't meet every day, they already fit that hybrid model. So that's what we were told.
Okay. All right, sounds good. Thank you so much.
And
It seems
Angie,
like ECFE would fall in that as well, if you follow it, and screening follows in that. I know that for sure. Screening
Okay.
is hybrid model already. Regardless.
Okay.
Mhm.
Angie, I might suggest that if they're not, there's no one to kind of take the lead on, is that you just write up a very simple suggested plan.
Mhm.
Because I find that if someone else does that legwork and says, here's what we could do, they say, oh, sure, that's fine. It's just that no one's going to really take the, unfortunately, initiative to write that up.
Well, and I am in charge of my program, so I just need clarification to give to my superintendent.
Very
And he's
good.
okay as long as I have that clarification. So he asked me to reach out to MDE, and I'm kind of waiting on Mike Brown. So
Well,
yeah.
and the document that Christy posted in the chat earlier might be helpful too. Because
Okay.
it gets all those details in it.
Okay, I'll go back and look at that then.
And you might not get any clear directions from Mike Brown either. So
No, I wouldn't
Yeah.
wait for that.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm asking you guys. But thanks, everyone.
All right. Wow, you guys rock. So
Thank you.
applause, everybody. Woo! High fives. All right, you amazing women. So I just have to tell you, I got into a Twitter war with somebody, which I truly try not to do. But this person was talking about the South Dakota governor and was comparing her to the Minnesota governor, and was saying how she's competent and like logical or something. Unlike, and this was like all in comparison to Walz. And regardless of how you feel about Walz, right? Anyway, so but that she was competent, logical, and pretty.
Ew.
And yeah, I know. So I couldn't let that one go, and pushed back and just asked what her being pretty had to do with her ability to govern the state. And you can imagine, just opened the floodgates. Anyway, so I pause as I call you women. I call you my people. So.
Sounds like we need to follow Susan on Twitter. It's very
I want your
interesting.
Twitter handle. I want to know.
So anyway, all right. Well, have a fabulous week,
Thank you.
everybody, and I will see you probably next week. But I think, let's see, Sarah, I see that you've maybe stepped up. If I need a sub, thank you. Thank you. You rock. And I'll be posting this later today on YouTube. And so with that, bye everybody. Have a great
Bye. Thank you.
Yep.